Hello and welcome, Angelinos. We thank you for tuning in to yet another brilliant episode of the Galaxy Guy podcast, hosted by Chris Maldonado, a show made by loyal Galaxy fans for loyal Galaxy fans who bleed blue, white and gold. So join us as we talk about the ins and outs, as well as the ups and downs of your favorite team.
Hola y bienvenidos, Angelinos. Welcome back, Galaxy fans, to the Galaxy Guy Show. You know the drill. Como siempre, I'm your host, Chris Maldonado. And after a few weeks of extended vacation, we are excited to be back into the swing of things. We are always happy to be on here to talk about your favorite club, our favorite club, everyone's favorite club, the LA Galaxy. And we do have a lot to talk about tonight. Plenty of good things to talk about, which is kind of refreshing. We have a good one for you tonight. So we're going to be talking about the current state of things in general, playoff pictures, all that good stuff. We will be focused on this past Saturday's home game against the Vancouver Whitecaps, a team that was sitting equally at 30 points with us in the standings prior to the Saturday's game, before the match. And they have been in direct competition with us all season long for a playoff spot. We'll be breaking down this match for you. We'll talk about the stats, provide our unbiased analysis. You guys know what we do. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the game. Spirits are high after this convincing win and a good performance by the LA Galaxy. So we're going to ride the wave of high spirits, and there are a few people on this earth that I would rather talk about the LA Galaxy than my two co-hosts. You guys already know them. We have the man himself, Mr. Matt Granger. How are you tonight, Matt?
Doing really well. Happy you're back from your very, very extended vacation. You look tan, you look fit, you look beautiful as ever. And USC is ranked 14th in the AP poll for football. So it's a good weekend.
This is a good weekend, man. That's good. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad you're doing good, dude. Your spirits are high. I felt your energy coming off as you came onto the broadcast. And I see Casey's also in high spirits. We also have with us, you guys know him, our in-home soccer analyst. That soccer IQ is always needed, Mr. Casey Cagle himself. How are you tonight, Casey?
I'm good, feeling good after Saturday's win. Obviously missed you at the game, Chris, but got to meet up with Matt and his family as well. And yeah, feeling good after 5-2 victory, Can't get better than that.
I can't say there's been many times this season where I've felt this good about a Galaxy win. I mean, we'll talk about that obviously when we get into it, but it feels good, man. I'm in high spirits. So we're going to get into it. But before we do get into it, just another quick word for the fans watching or listening to this right now. If you're on your commute, if you're watching this at work, if you're listening to it anywhere, we really do appreciate you guys always tuning in, following, leaving a like, leaving a comment. It really does help appease the algorithm gods. They demand their sacrifice. So feel free to hit that notification bell. It's awesome. So we do appreciate it. And let us know in the comments what you see the LA Galaxy doing at the end of the season, where they end up landing. So we would love to hear from you guys. It's always fun to engage with you guys. So with that said, let's get into it. As we kick it off here, we have to talk about, as we usually do, the build up to this game, right? So prior to Saturday, the Galaxy was coming off back-to-back losses. And I feel like we've said that many times leading into this season, right? Back-to-back losses for the LA Galaxy. The one being against FC Dallas in Dallas, that 1-0 loss, and that extremely disappointing loss against the worst team in MLS. Actually, I think now they're the second worst team in MLS because we gave them 3 points, right? But we lost to them 4-2. They absolutely humiliated us in SKC. The Galaxy at that time was out of a playoff spot coming into the Saturday's game, and the possibility of a continuous nosedive seemed imminent. The Galaxy has been bleeding goals and points all summer long. They've been limping along and teetering at the edge of a playoff spot. So to say that the LA Galaxy needed to win this game against the Whitecaps at home in order to stay competitive in the playoff picture was an understatement. So let me ask you fellas this. It's an open question to either of you. What does this past Saturday's match against the Whitecaps tell us about this LA Galaxy team? Are they serious about this? Are they are you guys convinced that this team is serious about a playoff race, a playoff spot? Are we convinced?
Well, I think if it tells you anything about the Galaxy, it's that when they are given opportunities, they can finish goals. And the Galaxy have put up 4 on Montreal, and then we put up 5 on this team. So the ability to score is there if the tactics are favorable for us. But a lot of the tactics being favorable are going to fall back on Greg to adjust. In this game, Vancouver played a really bad game plan against us, and you could see that there is talent on this team. It's just about putting it together and putting them in positions to succeed, not just positions the coach wants to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I echo that sentiment. It's like you said, as long as we have the edge tactically, I feel like we can, get the points when we need them. But at the same time, we're falling into the same trends of dropping points against teams we should be beating. We've seen this time and time again the last few seasons. Easy games that easily become trap games for us. And going into that SKC game, they were coming off of, I believe, 5 straight losses or 5-game winless streak.
Yeah.
Were outscored like 9-3 in their previous 5 games. So, it had trap game written all over it. But, this Vancouver team teetering on the line with us before Saturday, and, we're still kind of teetering on the line again. And it's that point in the season where, we always say it's too early to make a call, but it's looking like it's going to come down to another decision day
God,
deadline for us.
don't do this to us. Who's our last game of the season? Is it
Good
Houston
question.
again?
Is it Houston again?
Oh,
It might be.
dude, MLS does this. They do this on purpose.
I'll look. You guys keep going. I'll look.
Those bastards, man, at MLS, they know exactly what they're doing. Decision day, Galaxy against Houston again.
God, it's Houston
But
again.
it's
Jesus.
Houston again. Isn't that 4 or
Yep.
5 years in a row? But listen, as much as we have ruffled the feathers of some fans and some pundits on this show by stating that the Galaxy hasn't been very good this season, right? They've been good in like spots here and there, but it's been up and down and up and down. A lot of downs. I do have to say this, that at least the Galaxy has been staying, you could say, relatively competitive and not completely falling off the edge of the world. In this case, the edge of the playoff standings. You could say, obviously, make the case that they are performing worse than they did last year, statistically, points wise, goals wise, right? Um, but they're not just completely falling off. They're still there. They're still fighting. They're still fighting. So we'll have to give them credit where credit is due. Team hasn't completely fallen apart. But without further ado, what do you guys say we get into the meat of this sandwich? And Matt, Casey, what do you say we talk about this match?
Yes. Yes, please.
Great. Let's do it. We're going to dive deeper into some stuff. We're moving into the section of the show. You guys know we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And of course, naturally, we have to talk about all the good stuff first. And after a big 5-2 win over a playoff contender, right? The Vancouver Whitecaps has definitely been a playoff contender at the very least this season. You bet there's plenty of standout good moments to talk about from this match after that 5-2 win. Casey, I'll ask you first. What are some good takeaways from this match or overall for the LA Galaxy?
I mean, my take from it is that it was the best example of Vanny ball that we have seen all season and arguably throughout Greg Vanny's tenure at the Galaxy. I mean, possession-based style was in full effect. 643 passes attempted from the Galaxy versus Vancouver's 396 passes attempted. Galaxy had an 86.6% passing completion percentage, which is exceptionally high.
Good.
62% possession overall, which, obviously that's part of Greg's game plan. A lot of good quick transitions through the midfield. Vasquez had great vision. He had 8 passes into the final third, as well as Araujo. and the quicker combinations, like I was talking about through the midfield, looked a lot more crisp, look a lot more organized, especially when Vancouver was playing more of a wide man-to-man style in the second half. We were able to draw pressure away to create more space and get balls in through the back. And it was our highest single game goal tally this season of 5 goals with 4 different goal scorers. So this was just peak Vandy ball.
The tactics finally worked, and I mean Matt has pointed this out before. We've talked about it to death on the Discord server, on the Galaxy Family Discord. Trooper, shout out to Trooper, who always puts out good stats. The Galaxy doesn't really win when they're holding a ton of possession, so it panned out this time around. Chop it up to some poor play by Vancouver, but it was pretty good, spot on, right? Matt, I'm going to ask you now, what were the standout moments, the standout good moments, the good things from this match for the LA Galaxy on Saturday?
I think just to kind of further dive into what Casey was saying, I think Vancouver, and if you were watching the broadcast, Kobe Jones actually mentioned in the 3rd minute of the game exactly what ended up transpiring. Vancouver went with 3 at the back, and then they also tried to press those guys high, and then the mid didn't support them very well. And what that allowed for is for our speedy wingers, who are typically very fast in a straight line, to get behind those guys. That created a numerical advantage where we had a lot of two-on-ones or one-on-ones. And then it created a lot of mismatches, and it gave our players who were typically, relatively indecisive, space and time to make good decisions. And you could see it just in the amount of, offensive activity we had in the first half. In the 7th minute, Victor Vasquez slipped a pass to Grancer. Unfortunately, that one didn't go in. Yeah, it was a great ball. In the ninth minute, Grancer passed it to Cabral, who missed a header. 11th minute, Cabral to Grancer for a goal. 16th minute, Bond, Cabral to Grancer, which created the handball, and she just scored the PK. 26th minute, Victor Vasquez scored. 39th minute, Julian to Grancer. I mean, there was just a lot of really good activity there, and a lot of it had to do with the way we were attacking the wings and getting behind them. Yeah. Vancouver never adjusted, and it really kind of just played into our strength. So, tactically speaking, that was as good as we're going to play in the first half. Obviously, the second half went a little bit differently, but in terms of that, very, very good game from Grancer, who had 2 goals, and then the third one, the handball he created, so 3 goal contributions for Grancer. And then even Kevin Cabral had one of his better games where he was putting balls into dangerous positions, and he was definitely annoying the left back there. So very good game for those 2 in particular.
Yeah, I would have to agree on that. The wings definitely won the game for the Galaxy this time around. It's like you mentioned, Matt, great individual performance by Samuel Grancer. That third one, that handball, I mean, that was easily going to be a goal, right? It was either
because definitely on frame.
It was on frame, and Brugman was right there, unmarked, completely by himself. That ball was going in somehow, right? So amazing performance by Sam. I mean, he's played just a little bit over 1,000 minutes this season. He has, I believe, 3 goals and 3 assists, which is not something that's mind-blowing. But, given the way the most of the wingers on this team have played all season long, it's definitely a standout, right?
And, there's some criticisms of him, right? Like, he may not be the fastest, paciest guy on the field, but you see him every time he has the ball. He's one of the hardest working dudes on the field for the Galaxy. And, credit where credit is due.
Absolutely. I'm assuming that most of the viewers and listeners watched the match on Saturday, or, at least saw the highlights. They saw the goals on social media. You must have seen, even just from that, how dominant the Galaxy was out there on the night. They were just bullying that Vancouver backline. The possession stat that Casey brought up, the midfield was just passing the ball around Vancouver. And if you didn't have a chance to catch the game, you missed what could have been considered probably the most commanding win by the LA Galaxy all season long. And it's been a while since we've seen the Galaxy score 5 goals on a team, right? I think the last time the Galaxy put out such a good performance was that 4-0 win against the Montreal Impact, right? And I think that was the 4th of July game. There were plenty of bright spots, guys, and I know we praise him a lot, but to me, one of the brightest things that I saw out there, one of the best moments was, I know we praise him a lot. I'll say it again. I know on this show we're high on him. We are huge fans of him, but I have to say that 5th goal right? The one that Alvarez scored, coming off of that super selfless pass by Dayon. It says so much about that type of player. You know, he's young, right? Young players, strikers by nature tend to be very, very selfish. Young guys, they want to outshow, they want to outshow. And they hardly ever pass up opportunities to score goals, especially after Chicha got a goal this game, right? And Dion is in direct competition with Chicha for minutes, for that position. This is mentally. I would have done it. I would have taken that shot myself, right? Especially since we've seen Dayon take those shots all season long. He scored from that angle, from that same position before. It was natural. When I saw him take on that defender, I'm like, Dayon's he's gonna shoot that ball, but he didn't. He selflessly passed that ball to Alvarez, and it's almost like Alvarez wasn't really expecting it, but it like is just like muscle memory, just kind of like
surprise to touch. Yeah.
He had that surprise touch, and it went in, and he just looked like he was over the moon when he scored that goal. Right? He was so happy. So that goes miles as far as like team chemistry. How beloved I'm sure Dayon is in that locker room. Something so small like that, like just passing up the shot to score your own goal and assisting a teammate, says so much about you. It sets you up in that locker room with your teammates. I'm really excited to a future where Dayon is a starter for this team and players around him are just excited to get the ball to him. I want to see that. I'm excited for it. And that to me was the brightest moment of the game, the entire game, where Dayon had that assist on Efrain Alvarez. It says so much, guys. I don't know. I'm excited. This is the cherry on top. Exactly. Oh,
sprinkles on the cupcake.
Sprinkles like this, like Salt Bay. I don't know. Any other moments that you guys must have seen out there?
I think that's a good that's a good new nickname for Dejan. Call him Sprinkles because he just adds that sweet touch, to this offense.
Oh man, it was just wonderful. I'm still excited. I'm still excited for this game. Am I totally convinced that the LA Galaxy is a certified playoff team? Am I totally convinced that the LA Galaxy is going to continue to perform this way all season long for the last 10 games? No, I am absolutely not saying that. I'm not convinced. We've seen this LA Galaxy put out good performances, and then the very next game they lose against the worst team in the league. So definitely not saying that, guys. I'm also just being realistic, right? But I am excited. I'm happy to see what I saw out there. Puig is coming on, and we'll see some game-changing plays by him, right? But it was wholesome. It was a wholesome moment. Amazing performance by Sam, like you guys have already mentioned. An amazing brace, finishing those two great goals. That second goal of his was just delicious, right? And we've been critical of his finishing, and he finished, right? So standout performance by him. And frankly, I don't know. I can't really. A Panenka penalty shot from Chicharito, guys.
The pure disrespect of it. I was so entertained by it.
This is Chicharito, the guy who wasn't taking penalty kicks because he's so poor.
The is just the purest form of disrespect to a goalkeeper.
Says a lot about his confidence, right? So it was good to see that, getting his 10th goal of the season. But unless we have anything else to add on to the good section, you guys good on that? Great. Of course, we have to move on now to the bad moments of this game. Matt, we'll kick it off with you, man. Tell us what were the worst things for the LA Galaxy, the bad moments for the LA Galaxy in this game?
Nothing was really too bad. I guess it'd just be small critiques, and it's just for three aspects of the game. One of them is Julian. Julian, had a phenomenal game, to be perfectly honest, as going forward. Not so much going backwards though. So, going forward, I think he had like an 89% pass completion. He had 2 assists on the day, and he helped press Vancouver backwards in a way that they were completely dissembled the entire first half. But then going the other direction, right? He was involved in both goals that Vancouver ended up scoring. One of them where he ran alongside Gould, and maybe got a little like outbalanced there, and the other one where he just let the guy turn the corner of him and hit that assist. And then finally, like the very needless and juvenile yellow card he got for no reason, like just running away with the ball. Like you would get that yellow no matter what league you're in.
It was so stupid, dude.
It was
We've seen him do this time and time again.
Just very very
reckless.
immature yellow. And then the other one would be Brugman, who it looks like he's kind of settling into himself a little bit. I like that he makes ambitious passes and that he wants to be in control back there. But you know, as a defensive mid and someone that we went to go get with an international spot and a TAM salary, you know, you want him to pass the ball at a higher success rate than 81%. It was the third lowest on the team, not including the forwards. So you expect a little bit better there. And then finally, the Galaxy in the second half. Once Vancouver went to a 4-man backline instead of a 3-man backline, it completely changed the dynamic of the game. Vancouver started getting their offense going. They started possessing the ball more, and then our lethal wingers became not so lethal anymore. They weren't able to get behind, and even when they did, Vancouver was able to support and catch up to them. And we started losing duels, which we hadn't been doing all game. So, you know, maybe the inflexibility of our tactics a little bit and our inability to adjust, which is something we had seen all season. Overall, a good game, but just little things to look at going forward.
Yeah. No, I agree. Casey?
I'm going to echo that same sentiment about Julian. He was my ugly point today, but might as well just bring him up.
Just do it.
Since we're talking about him. Yeah, he did have the 2 assists. He only had a 14.3% pressure success rating, which is pretty abysmal.
Wow.
And like you said, Matt, he was partially responsible for both of Vancouver's goals. I mean, the first goal, he tracked well with Ryan Gauld, but basically got bodied off the ball, ran into a little bit of traffic with Bond, and, you know, Gauld obviously took complete advantage of the situation. And on the second goal, he tracked well with Dahomey, but he got completely burned near the end line, and Dahomey bodied him off to ping the ball across to Ricketts for a Vancouver second goal. And that stupid yellow card in the 63rd minute, you know, if you've been keeping track with Professional Referees Organization this season, they've been really strict about impeding on the opposing team's free kick. And he held the ball in his hands for what felt like 15 seconds to hold up Vancouver's free kick, which is an absolute no-no this season in the eyes of Professional Referees Organization. So it was a completely stupid and, yeah, quite frankly childish yellow card to obtain. So yeah, I think Julian was definitely the bad in that that game on Saturday.
It's
on the
bittersweet.
side of the ball.
It's bittersweet, man. It is bittersweet. It's like, with me, I still have a gripe with the defense, right? I have no idea where folks got the idea that this defense was vastly improved over last season. Statistically, it's like a minor improvement at best, right? And granted, this was kind of not our complete starting lineup, but we had Raheem back in there, which was a pleasant surprise. We had Derek out, Depew filling in for him, but we are still bleeding easy goals. We are giving away goals due to bad lapses of judgment, amateur mistakes, and miscommunication. Like during this game versus the Whitecaps, the Galaxy defense had its fair share of those mistakes. And I mean, in the 5th minute, guys, you go back and look at those highlights. Julian Gressel was completely unmarked and on an island by himself off to the right. Thankfully, he missed that cross by Tybert, right? Which would have. This is Julian Gressel, right? We've seen him be extremely successful in this league before. He can finish those shots. Like, he fumbled that ball. Mm-hmm. It was just him against Bond. And I think he got a little impatient, something, like early game jitters or whatever. He is maybe mentally off because he's at a different team now. He didn't really want to move, but he missed that shot. But the Galaxy could have been down 1-0 in the 5th minute. And we have seen this Galaxy team react negatively to being down early, right? Mm-hmm. So this could have completely changed the complexion of this team, could have completely changed the outcome of this match had we gone down early in the 5th minute. We saw, like you mentioned, the Galaxy making mistakes time and time again during this game, and mostly that was Julian's fault, but we saw them get beat multiple times, on the both sides and through the middle. So that, to me, still a bad take. The defense wasn't as good as it should have been. We allowed 2 goals. It could have been a lot worse. So I don't know. Anything else you guys have to add to
Well,
the
yeah, and
bad?
like Matt said, those last 20 minutes of the game were super nervy when you saw, Vancouver bring tons of numbers forward, playing
Yeah.
very compact. And I had thought that we were easily going to concede 2 additional goals to bring it level at 4-4.
Yeah.
But luckily, I think that fifth kind of revitalized the team and revitalized the subs that were brought on, and we were able to hang on to the victory.
Yeah, and Vancouver didn't have their first or second string striker. They were playing with their third and fourth string strikers. So we also lucked out there. A lot of, something a lot of fans don't know.
Cavallini wasn't out there, right?
And neither was White.
Cavallini and White. Cavallini is a phenomenal player.
He's their
I
DP.
think he's their DP, right?
Mhm.
So something else to keep in mind, right? So when we have to measure our excitement, we say that 5-2 win. They were also without two of their most important players. Cavallini, arguably their most important player. The true test will be
Seattle
on Friday against Seattle, right? Because
Mhm.
Seattle is limping. I mentioned this on the Discord earlier. They're like a headless snake, right? And they're like, they can still strike. They can still strike, and this is still Seattle. And Raul Ruidiaz is coming back into the fold of things, and he's getting healthy. And I love to see that guy play, but at the same time, I hate him so much because he's such a damn great player, and he's feisty, and he attacks, and he's like a little bulldog, you know. But we'll talk about that. Let's jump into the ugly takes. Some ugly takes, guys. Let's hear them.
If you ask me, outside of the penalty kick, Chicharito was kind of a ghost last night.
Yeah.
He was not looking very threatening in front of goal. Was getting the distribution he likes, but just couldn't make any moments out of it. He was targeted for 28 passes, received 15 of them, and had a receiving percentage of 53.6%. And, a few of his receptions in the final third of Vancouver's 18 were just completely fumbled.
Yeah.
Just didn't look like the typical Chicharito we see.
And I'll echo that too, Casey. And I said it during the match game, match thread on Discord for the All-Star game, for the MLS All-Star game. Chicharito was out there on the field with some of the best players in MLS, the All-Stars, right? The best players. He had guys on there that were just killing it as far as play creation, right? They were just feeding the balls, and he was invisible. He was invisible in a sea of creative players, you know. And the All Stars played a really good game. He was the captain. He's your focal point, and he was pretty damn invisible. I mean, even I have to admit to say this, even Carlos Vela got an early goal, right?
Yeah.
And
showed him up.
He showed him up, showed him up. So I don't know. I think he's just slowing down. It's age. We've been talking about it since, last season. This season, 10 goals. But it's different. It's different this season. He looks different. His drive and motivation is still there, but body's just not quite there yet. So, Matt.
I guess for my ugly take, and I'll just segue it into Seattle, is that if you liked how the game looked against Vancouver in the first half, it's not going to look anything like that against Seattle. Vancouver didn't have any other offensive weapons outside of Gould there. Seattle has all their offensive weapons available. Vancouver plays 3 at the back. Seattle plays a very stout 4 at the back. So for Seattle, in terms of offensive weapons, we have to look out for. You have Lodero, you have Ruidiaz, who just played 60 minutes. You have Rusnak. You have what's the 2 brothers' name? Oh, yeah, what's the 2 brothers' name?
The Roldan brothers, yeah.
Yeah. So you have the offensive Roldan. You have Freddie Montero. There's a lot of people on that team who can score. And in bunches as well. And when they're all together, they're very, very lethal. Oh, Morris as well, right?
Jordan Morris, yeah.
Backline spine breaker, Jordan Morris. And then going the other direction, Seattle is filled with defenders who are very, very good at defending one-on-one. So they have Yamar, they have the defensive Roldan, who's pretty competent, and then they also have Nuhu, right? From what I've seen when I've scouted their games, Seattle's main issue right now is that since they lost João Paulo, they don't have someone in the back organizing them very well. So a lot of teams have been able to take advantage of Seattle just being disorganized, even though they're good individually defensively. So given that they're going to run 4 at the back and they're good individual defenders, those one-on-ones aren't really going to work for us. I wouldn't be surprised if we see our wingers get jammed up and start losing duels left and right. The way you're going to beat Seattle this time around is you're going to have to make really smart runs, like the way Chicha kind of does with his expertise, with his high IQ, the way Dijon typically does from time to time. Even Cabral, if people just forget about him, will find himself in a good spot. But you're not going to beat them outspeeding Seattle. That's not the right way to go about this. You have to be incisive with your passes. You have to like have very good decision making and quick with it. The way we were against Vancouver. I think if Vandy comes out with the same game plan against Seattle that he did against Vancouver, I think we're going to get stomped really bad. Like I said, you just have to really take advantage of their disorganization, their lack of leadership back there.
Yeah.
That's the way you beat Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's going to come down to, knowing the moments to get forward and counter. And I think you're going to see a lot of route one to try and get in behind Seattle's back line. I think that's probably two of the most effective ways to play against the Seattle team. I mean, you saw RSL get 2 pretty decent goals off the counter last night. That just goes to show you where the weakness lies with this Seattle team.
Yeah. I mean, 14 total wins, losses, and draws against head to head against Seattle. It's 14 wins for the Galaxy, 14 wins for Seattle, 11 draws. They're like dead neck to neck, right? When it comes to head to head games. And they are both 1 point away from each other. They're 1 point away from each other in the standings. If Seattle beats us, that puts them at 35 points?
Yeah.
And it bumps us down to 7th. Worst case scenario, if all the results go against us, the Galaxy could be as low as 11th, right? You mentioned that earlier, Matt.
Yeah, so we can't jump to 5th. There's too big of a gap. We can only either hold 6th or go to 11th.
Yeah,
depending on how this weekend goes.
Yeah,
even tight.
Even if we win, we stay in 6th place, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, because RSL won.
Exactly. So they're 4 ahead.
They're 4 ahead. So best case scenario is the Galaxy retains that 6th spot after this weekend. Worst case scenario is the Galaxy ends up in 11th. If we lose and all the other results go against us around the Western Conference, 11th place could be a very, very, very scary place to be in. I mean, 6th place is a very scary place to be in, frankly, especially when all the other teams are within 1 point away from us.
Fighting to keep your head above water at that point. I mean,
it's exactly
that's pray for.
Best analogy that I could have thought of. That's keeping your head above water. So the Galaxy is keeping their head above water. There is still a silver lining to this. We are not drowned. We are not drowned just yet. So, guys, is there anything else that we need to talk about, or does that feel like we've pretty much covered everything?
I do want to give a shout out to the girl who was singing the national anthem on Saturday. I forget her name. I think it was Addie Rodriguez. But she kind of had a little nervous breakdown before she started singing, and then got on the mic and absolutely killed it. So big ups to her. That was amazing. Probably one of the best child national anthem performances since Malia Emma, and that's saying something.
Yeah. Man, that seems like such a long time ago. Isn't Malia in high school now?
Probably. I was like, Lana was playing. So that's how long ago it was.
4 or 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and then since we haven't really previewed Puig, oddly enough, this is one player that me and my wife are big Barcelona fans, and this is probably the one player we've watched, I would say 95% of this guy's games. So I have a pretty good idea of how Puig plays. So he's a small frame guy. He's very fast. He's very shifty. He's good on the ball. He's good in tight spaces. He's very aggressive going forward and very creative with it. I know some people have looked at his stats and said, well, the numbers don't really back it up. But I think if you had looked at the way Barca played back then, their stats were almost completely eaten up by Luis Suarez and Messi at the time, who undoubtedly end up leading Barcelona in goals and assists, train them off as first and second place. Luis Suarez, one of the most underrated and best number 9 passers of his generation, if not of all time. But Puig's very good. I think we're going to be in good hands. I wouldn't be surprised if next year he ends up playing our Nico Ladero type role. So it'll be a good time. Very, very excited for him.
Yeah. And listen, I think he's going to play on Friday, right? Because he made a post on social media saying, see you guys on Friday, which means he must know his visa's coming in this week, which is good. Great news to have him on there. And that's going to be the biggest indication for the Galaxy of where this Galaxy is going to end up at the end of the season. If we see Puig, on Friday ball out, and we see some good signs from him, it's going to give us a little bit of hope, but hopefully he can kind of hit the ground running, But that's it, Galaxy fans. From all of us here at the Galaxy Guy podcast, you guys know who we are. You guys know what we do. We appreciate you guys being on with us yet another week. And we will hope to see you guys on Friday, the LA Galaxy against the Seattle Sounders in that tight playoff race. And we wish you guys a great week. So for me, Chris Maldonado, your host, for my amazing co-hosts, Matt Granger and Casey Cagle, we'd like to thank you guys. Have a great week.